You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
You finished a project last month. You made smart calls. You figured out exactly what questions to ask, what to prioritize, what to skip. And then, a new project landed on your desk this week, and you sat there, thinking it all through again, from scratch.
Every single time. And here's the number that actually stopped me cold. Knowledge workers waste an average of 4.5 hours per week just remaking decisions they've already made before. That's over 200 hours a year. Gone.
200 hours. That's 5 full work weeks just thinking in circles.
And the worst part? You already knew the answer. You just didn't save it.
This is English Up Podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Alex. This is a B2 level episode, perfect if you're pushing toward fluency. B1 learners, you're welcome too. Stay with us.
Today's topic hits hard: why you keep rethinking everything from scratch, and how to build a personal decision template library so your best thinking works for you again and again.
And there's one concept that changes everything. It's called cognitive offloading. We'll get into it. But first,
quick question, and answer fast. When you finish a project, do you A. write down what worked and save it somewhere you'll actually find it, or B. tell yourself you'll remember it and never look at it again?
Drop an A or B in the comments right now. 3 seconds. Go.
I'm guessing most of you said B, and honestly, same. I used to think I'd just remember. Spoiler, I didn't.
Here's what we're covering today. We'll show you exactly why your brain keeps starting over, why that's costing you more than you think, and the 2-step system to stop it permanently.
And stay until the end for our word tour. 5 high-value expressions you can use immediately. Reuse, template from scratch, offload, and hit the ground running.
These aren't textbook words. They're the exact phrases top performers use when they talk about working smarter.
Right now, you might be on your commute, at your desk, or pretending to work while actually listening to us.
Highly productive use of time, by the way.
And later, we'll give you one tiny habit that takes 3 minutes and saves you hours. But first, let's talk about why your brain keeps doing this to you. Okay, I have to confess something. Last year, I took on a new client project. Spent about 2 hours in a coffee shop, just mapping out my whole approach. What to ask in the kickoff call, how to structure the timeline, what red flags to watch for. It felt great. I'd figured it out.
And then?
3 months later, another client. Same type of project. And I sat in that exact same coffee shop and did the whole thing again, from scratch, 2 more hours. And when I compared the 2 plans afterward, they were almost identical.
So you essentially paid yourself twice to think the same thought.
When you put it that way, it sounds painful. But yes, exactly that.
Here's why this happens. Your brain doesn't automatically flag a new situation as, you've solved this before. It just sees, new project, blank slate, start thinking. And so you do. Every time.
It's like having a great recipe in your head, but never writing it down. So every time you cook, you're guessing the proportions again.
And this is where the concept of cognitive offloading becomes critical. The idea is simple. Instead of storing decisions in your brain, which is unreliable and exhausting, you offload them into an external system. A file, a folder, a doc, something outside your head that holds the thinking for you.
So the goal isn't to have a better memory. It's to need less memory.
Exactly. And the tool that makes this work is what we're calling a decision template. Not a diary, not a to-do list, a reusable decision framework, a snapshot of your thinking that you can pull up and apply the next time a similar situation hits.
So what does one actually look like?
3 fields. That's it. 1. What was the situation? 2. What did I consider and what did I decide? 3. How did it turn out? You fill that in right after you make a significant call. Takes about 3 minutes and you save it in a folder labeled by scenario. New client intake, content decisions, team conflict, whatever fits your work.
And then the next time you're staring at a new client proposal, you don't start from zero. You open the template, see what past you already figured out, and you hit the ground running from minute 1.
That phrase, hit the ground running, that's the whole point. You're not warming up. You're not retracing steps. You're already moving at full speed because the groundwork is done.
Past you did the hard thinking. Present you just has to reuse it.
And here's the data point that makes this real. Research on decision fatigue shows that the average professional makes around 35,000 decisions per day. Most of them are low stakes. But the high-stakes ones, the ones that actually shape your work, those are the ones draining your best mental energy. Every time you reuse a past decision, you're protecting that energy for something new.
So it's not about being lazy. It's about being strategic with your cognitive resources.
Right? And the people who build these systems don't just work faster, they make better decisions because they're not tired when it counts.
And by the way, there's a phrase for what happens when you don't have this system. It's called decision debt. We'll break that down a little later, but trust me, you felt it. Alright, so we've established the problem. You're rebuilding decisions from scratch every single time and it's costing you hours you don't have. So let's talk about the fix. The 2-step system.
Step 1. The decision snapshot. Every time you make an important call, do I take this client? How do I handle this conflict? How do I structure this launch? You spend 3 minutes writing it down. What you considered, what you decided, what happened.
3 minutes. That's it. Not a full report. Not a journal entry. Just a tiny card. Situation, decision, outcome.
And you save it somewhere you'll actually open again. Not buried in a folder. Not in a notebook you lost. A dedicated file, a Notion page, a Google Doc titled My Decision Library. Something with zero friction to access.
And step 2 is where it gets powerful. You sort those snapshots by scenario. New project startup, client onboarding, content planning, conflict resolution. So next time a similar situation hits, you open the library first. You don't start from scratch. You reuse what already worked.
This is how you offload the thinking to a system instead of burning fresh brain power every single time. And it means you hit the ground running on day 1 of any new project.
It sounds almost too simple, right?
Simple is the point. Complexity is why people don't do it.
But wait. I want to push back on something here, Alex, because I've tried systems like this before, and they always fall apart. You build the template, you use it twice, and then life gets busy and you stop updating it. So isn't this just another productivity system that sounds great in theory but dies in week 3?
That's a fair challenge. But here's where most people go wrong. They try to build the whole library up front. They sit down on a Sunday and say, I'm going to create templates for every scenario I'll ever face. That's exhausting. That's why it collapses.
Okay, but even if you build it gradually, you still have to remember to use it. And when you're in the middle of a stressful project, the last thing you're thinking about is let me check my decision library. You just react. So the habit still breaks down under pressure.
And that's exactly why the trigger matters more than the habit itself. You don't add check decision library to your to-do list. You attach it to something that already happens. Every time a new project lands in your inbox, before you open a single document, before you write a single task, you open the library, it takes 30 seconds. It becomes part of the startup ritual, not an extra step.
But here's my real concern. What if the template becomes a trap? You made a decision 6 months ago in a completely different context. The client was different, the market was different, your team was different. If you just reuse that old template, aren't you forcing a new situation into an old mold? That could actually make your decisions worse, not better.
Now that's the sharpest objection. And you're right, a template used blindly is dangerous. But here's the distinction. A decision template isn't a script. It's a checklist of considerations. It reminds you what questions to ask, not what answers to give. So when you open it, you're not copying the old decision. You're using the old thinking process as a scaffold for a new one.
So it's less like a cookie cutter and more like a map of the terrain you've already crossed.
Exactly. The map doesn't tell you where to go. It tells you what obstacles exist, what routes you've tried, what worked and what didn't. You still navigate, but you're not navigating blind.
Okay, that actually shifts it for me. Because I think I was imagining a rigid template, like a form you fill out. But if it's more like a set of prompts that activate your existing knowledge,
it becomes a thinking accelerator, not a thinking replacement. And that's the whole point of cognitive offloading. You're not outsourcing your judgment, you're outsourcing the setup cost of judgment.
the setup cost. I like that framing, because that's exactly what kills momentum at the start of a project. Not the actual decisions, but the cost of getting your brain back into decision-making mode.
And here's a number that makes this concrete. Research on decision fatigue shows that the quality of your decisions drops by up to 40% after you've made a high number of choices in a single day. So if you're spending the first hour of a new project just reconstructing your own thinking, you're already depleted before the real work starts.
40%. That's not a small margin. That's the difference between a sharp decision and a sloppy one.
And a template library doesn't just save time. It protects the quality of your thinking at the moments when it matters most. You walk in with context already loaded. Your brain isn't warming up. It's already running.
So the goal isn't to think less. It's to think better by not wasting cognitive energy on the parts you've already figured out.
That's it. Let past you do the setup. Let present you do the actual work.
And by the way, if you're finding this useful, share this episode with one person who you know keeps reinventing the wheel. They need this more than they realize.
All right, before we get to the word tour, let's do a quick bridge, because we've got 5 expressions from today that are worth locking in permanently.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. The problem, the system, the pushback, the fix. Now it's time for the part that makes it all stick.
Word tour. 5 expressions straight from today's conversation. The exact words you need to talk about working smarter in English.
These aren't random vocab words. You've already heard them in context. Now we're going to lock them in.
Let's go.
Let's start with the one that kicked everything off today. We kept saying you're starting over. From scratch. That phrase, from scratch, means starting at the very beginning with nothing carried over from before.
And it's not just a productivity phrase. You hear it everywhere. She built that company from scratch. He learned to code from scratch. It always means zero starting point. No shortcuts, no head start.
And the whole point of today's episode is that you don't have to, because you've done the thinking before. Which brings us straight to the next one. Reuse.
Reuse. Reuse. To use something again that you've already used before. In our context, you're not reusing a document. You're reusing a decision. You're reusing a decision.
And it sounds simple, but most people never think of their own past decisions as something worth reusing. They treat every new situation like it's completely unique, when actually, most situations rhyme.
Most situations rhyme. I love that. And that's exactly where the template comes in.
Template. A template is a pre-made structure you can apply to new situations. In design, it's a layout. In writing, it's a format. In our system, it's a set of prompts and considerations you've already worked out, so you don't have to rebuild the thinking every time.
And the key word there is apply. A template isn't a finished answer. It's a starting framework. You still make the decision. You just don't start from scratch doing it.
Which connects perfectly to offload. This one's powerful. To offload something means to transfer it, to move a burden from one place to another. When you offload a task, you hand it to someone else. When you offload a decision to a system,
your brain stops carrying it. That's the whole concept of cognitive offloading we talked about earlier. Your brain has a limited capacity for decisions in a single day. Every time you offload a routine judgment to a template, you're protecting that capacity for the decisions that actually need fresh thinking.
It's like clearing RAM on your laptop. The more you offload, the faster everything else runs.
Exactly. And when your system is loaded and ready, you can do the last thing on our list. Hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running. This is one of those phrases that just feels right when you say it. It means to start something quickly and effectively, with full momentum from the very first moment. No warm-up period. No slow start.
Imagine two people starting the same project on Monday morning. One opens a blank document and stares at it. The other opens their decision library, pulls up the relevant template, and has a clear action plan within 10 minutes. That second person
hit the ground running. They didn't waste the first hour just getting oriented.
And that's the compounding effect of this whole system. The first time you build a template, it costs you 3 minutes. The 10th time you reuse it, you've saved hours. You've offloaded the setup cost permanently.
So to recap the 5, from scratch, starting at 0. Reuse, applying something you've already built. Template, a pre-made framework for recurring situations. Offload, transferring a mental burden to an external system. And hit the ground running, starting fast, starting strong, with no wasted momentum.
5 expressions, 1 system, 0 excuses to start from scratch again.
Unless you actually want to spend another 200 hours a year thinking in circles.
Highly not recommended.
All right, let's bring it home. Today we talked about one of the most quietly expensive habits in modern work. Rebuilding your thinking from scratch every single time a familiar situation shows up.
And the fix isn't complicated. Step 1, after every important decision, spend 3 minutes writing a snapshot. Situation, decision, outcome. That's it. Don't overthink the format.
Step 2, sort those snapshots by scenario and build your personal template library. New project startup. Client evaluation. Weekly planning. Whatever categories fit your work. The goal is that next time you open the library before you open a blank document.
And step 3, the one most people skip. Actually use it. Attach it to a trigger. Every time a new project lands, library first. 30 seconds. That's the whole ritual.
Honestly, I resisted this for a long time. I told myself I'd remember what worked. I told myself every situation was too unique to template. And I was wrong on both counts. The situations weren't unique. I was just too proud to admit I was repeating myself.
Past you already did the hard thinking. The only question is whether you let present you benefit from it. That's not laziness. That's leverage.
And if you take one thing from today, let it be this. Your best decisions are assets. Treat them like ones. Store them. Organize them. Reuse them. Don't let good thinking disappear into a folder you'll never open.
We're going to keep building on this theme. Next time, we're looking at how top performers structure their weekly reviews so nothing important ever slips through the cracks. You won't want to miss it.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what's one decision you've made recently that you wish you'd saved as a template?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.